You are you're live.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm DeeDee Bridgewater, and Gail Boyd has asked me to come and to speak with you all about myself. And so, well, here goes nothing. Um, I got into this business because I love singing. I always sang. I thought everybody in my house could sing. I thought it was something that all people could do. And when I was 7, I remember having a sing along, my mom, my sister, and I, to somebody that was on the radio, and it was a Motown group or individual. I don't know. At any rate, and I was trying to get us to harmonize at 7. At 7, and they couldn't harmonize. And then I said, okay, then let's everybody sing in unison. Sing everybody the same. Sing the same. Sing the melody. And my mom and my sister could not hold that melody. And then I was like, oh, to myself, I remember it registering, oh, not everybody can do this. And also at the age of 7, I announced to my mom and my dad that when I grew up, I was going to be an internationally well known singer, well respected by musicians. And I was going to live in Paris, France. And I was going to buy them a house and a car. And I did all of that. Well, for my mom, I bought the house and the car because she and my dad had divorced. So my dad's always had a little bone of contention with me for that. But at any rate, that's the beginning. And then I was singing in high school. I went to Catholic school, but when I got to high school, I got kicked out of Catholic school at 14 because I argued in well, no, I began to question, I'll say, I began to question the Catholic religion and that it was the only religion. And I was captain of my debate team at St. Matthew's, and I was giving my opening speech. And in my speech, I was saying, how is it possible that the Catholic Church can say that the Catholic religion is the one and only religion when people have other cultures and they have their beliefs? And how can we negate? And yeah, the Mother Superior came down the middle aisle of the auditorium and yanked me down off the stage and pulled me out by my left ear, just pulled me out like in the cartoons, and threw me out the front door of the auditorium and told me, go home and tell my mother I was never to come back. And that's how I got into public school. Yay. I wouldn't suggest that, but that's how I did it. At any rate, I was a little rebellious. So you've got that about me. Anyway, and I was at Southwestern High School in Flint, Michigan, where I grew up. And I put together a singing group with 2 girlfriends, and we called ourselves the Iridescents. And we sang Motown hits, by the Supremes and the Marvelettes, who were from Flint. Yay! And we would back up, male singers at talent shows in Flint. And yeah, that was fun. And I won a talent show. And my prize was to sing at one of the clubs in Flint, the Motor City. And I had to be escorted by my dad and sit in the kitchen. And then he brought me out onto the stage. And it was George Benson who was playing with Grant Green. Anyway, so that happened, and I liked it. I just remember thinking, "Ooh, I like this. I like this." And then I got another gig from another contest I won singing at a club, and I liked it. I liked it. So I started singing kind of semi-professionally then when I was 16, and then when I went to Michigan State, I was introduced by my father, whose name is Matthew Garrett. My maiden name is Garrett, to a man named Andy Goodrich. And he played alto saxophone. He was from Chicago. He was working on his PhD. So he had a quintet, and he added me to the quintet after he heard me sing. And it became the Andy Goodrich Quintet Plus One. And we won a lot of collegiate competitions and performed at some collegiate festivals. And I met Cecil through one of those collegiate festivals, Cecil Bridgewater, my first husband. And that was at the University of Illinois. They consider me an alumna of the University of Illinois. I went all of one semester. Isn't that cute? But I sang with their jazz band and did my first international tour to Russia, a cultural exchange tour. with the Bolshoi Ballet. The ballet came to the States, and the University of Illinois Jazz Band went to Illinois. At any rate, so I did all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to tell you that to kind of give you an introduction to me. Um, I've always been very outspoken. Very outspoken. Sometimes my mouth has gotten me in trouble. And I've always been a defender of the underdog. I supported the Black Panther Party. I served breakfast in the breakfast program that they had started um, in underprivileged areas. I worked in East Lansing. And so I did that kind of stuff, distributed pamphlets about the Panthers when they would have rallies, and distributed their newsletter and read their newsletter religiously, and learned a lot about my rights, my legal rights, through the newsletter, which came in handy later in life. And so there was that. I started singing with the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra when I had turned 20, and I had married Cecil, and we moved to New York. And Cecil was hired with the into the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra. He was also hired to be part of Horace Silver's quintet at that time. So for my honeymoon, we went on tour, Horace Silver, and but I was already a big fan of Horace Silver. My father introduced me to him when I was 15. I loved Horace Silver. At any rate, so I was brought into the band when they decided to change singers. From a male singer, they decided they wanted to have a female singer. I was friends with the male singer. His name was Mel Dancy. And so he knew that he was leaving, and he kept telling me I should audition, and I kept saying, no, no, no. And but I did go to the auditions that they held for the singer, and they were out on Long Island, and I was very shy back then, if you can imagine. And I listened to all these singers, and then they chose a singer, and then they were packing up, and I was like, shoot, I can sing better than that girl, you know. And so I went over to Mel Lewis and told him I wanted to audition, and he said, well, we're breaking everything down now. We have to go to the club. You audition tonight at the club. And I was like, but he said, you audition tonight at the club if you want to audition. So I did. I went up and I just sang cold turkey, a couple of songs from their book, the vocal book that the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra had, and I think I sang "Bye Bye Blackbird" and "On a Clear Day," and they hired me on the spot. And so I was with the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra for 4 years. Um, in my fourth year, the Wiz was being put together, and I knew the wife of Stanley Cowell, who recently passed. Her name is Vicki McLaughlin, and so Vicki and I were friends, and she was friends with the casting agent. And so she arranged for me to, and that woman's name is Mickey Powell. She arranged for me to go and be a part of the open casting. I had 4 auditions. My last audition came after I had been away for the summer in Europe on tour with Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra, and I came back and they said they want to see you again for the Wiz. And I went in, and I don't know what I sang. And I had to meet the director, the original director, Gilbert Moses. And he wanted me to do some acting improvisations. I didn't even know what that was. He had me do some crazy stuff and run around the room screaming and just all kinds of really crazy stuff, and to say my lines while I was doing stuff. And at any rate, after all of that, and then actually doing the dialogue, which was much larger for the role that I eventually got, which is Glinda the Good Witch of the South, um, I got the role. And that's how I got into the Wiz. So I had already started moving away from singing with the orchestra because as the years went on, I was with them 4 years, but each year I sang less and less. Um, and until I was singing, I think, 1 song or 2 songs at the end of the night after 3 sets, at the end of the third set. Whereas I started out, I was singing 2 songs on each set, and then it was 2 songs on the first and second set, and then it was 2 songs on the first set, and then it was 1 song on the last set. So I had started leaving, but they didn't appreciate that I was bringing in more there were more people coming in to hear me sing than to hear the band play. And if I wouldn't be there, people would leave. So they didn't like that. So that's how we ended up separating. But I love that. I love that to this day. And he was my music teacher. Everything I know about music, I learned from Thad Jones. At any rate, I did the Wiz, and of course, that takes me down another road. Excuse me. And I don't know. I've always been kind of the odd person in my situations. Like I was a jazz singer doing a Broadway musical with people that only did theater or that had come from the church, and that wasn't me. So and then I was the only person in the Wiz who did not wear a body mic. I just used the microphones that they had planted in the floor and overhead. And so my voice sounded much different than everyone else's going through those level lower body mics. Their voices were tinny and mine was more natural. So there was that. And I won the Tony Award with 5 lines of dialogue and half a song. Yay. I'm one of 3 actresses who had the shortest amount of time on stage and won a Tony Award, Best Supporting Actress in a Musical. At any rate, so that was cool. After that, I had a period where I was a recording artist, and I was with Atlantic Records. I signed with Atlantic at the end of the time that I spent with The Wiz. And after Atlantic, I moved to Elektra Records, which I liked very much, and that was in 1978. Atlantic was in 74 to 76, and it was 78 with Atlantic until 82, something like that. And then I left and I moved to France. I moved to France while I was doing the internet. Oh, I did Sophisticated Ladies. It was originally conceived for Judith Jameson, myself, and Gregory Hines, and I couldn't do it when they got the funds to do it, and I wasn't available. And I suggested Phyllis Himes, and so they hired Phyllis, and the rest is history. And well, I did it in L.A., and yeah, that was pretty cool. Got to do the Grammys doing It Don't Mean a Thing. That was cool. So there was that, and so that began my interest when I was doing the Wiz, and after that, my interest in theater and doing television and wanting to do movies and stuff. So I had that, and I always suggest to singers who want to have a career, I suggest that they take some acting classes. So they learn how to be in space, how to live in space, and how to project and be able to show your emotions and how to tell a story and make your voice heard in the back of a room, and that kind of stuff. So I have found that acting classes, well, I didn't really have acting classes. I was on stage. I never took acting classes. I do not read or write music. I never learned an instrument. I've taken 4 guitar lessons. I bought a guitar, a Pat Metheny guitar, and there's that. That's a whole nother story. But at any rate, I had, a very interesting period where I was signed to record labels as with an artist contract where I got minimal royalties, like 6%, 7% on not even 100% of the royalties. I think it was like 90% or something. At any rate, no money, and being subjected to the whims of the powers that be. I came along at a time when there was a lot of couch casting, we called it. And if you refused, you wouldn't get movies, you wouldn't get all kinds of things. And in my case, I refused to sleep with someone. And I was let go from Atlantic Records for that reason. I was let go from Electric Records for that reason. So and here I stand. I wouldn't sleep with someone doing festivals, someone that has a lot of festivals, and I'm still alive, and I've done other things. So, those were moments in my life where I knew that by standing up for my beliefs that it was going to alienate me with whoever those people were. But I believed enough in myself and my talent and my capabilities and abilities that I took that path of standing up for what I believe in. So maybe there's a little less glory involved. Who knows? But I can say today at 70 years old that I'm very proud of all the decisions that I made. Even decisions that I made that may not have been great decisions because I learned from them. And I think that we can learn from every situation that we find ourselves in. Um, when I moved to France, I rented my apartment from a man who was a locksmith and who had some properties. And so he had this apartment. And so I was renting from him. And I was doing concerts, small theaters. I had done a production of about Billie Holiday called Lady Day that had had some success. And so I'd gotten some notoriety for doing that. I had gone to Paris with Sophisticated Ladies, and that was a very big success for me. Um, I did television shows and I did all kinds of wonderful things doing Sophisticated Ladies. And so I came to Paris and France and came into celebrity like almost immediately. So that was a wonderful thing. So I did this production of Lady Day, and where I had to learn French and do it in French. And at the same time, I was doing some small concerts, and this man who was a locksmith who I was renting my apartment from said he could help me to organize my concerts. And so he started helping me, and he would call some of the promoters for me and, help me to set up my dates and stuff. And we became friends, and he was married, and I became friends with he and his wife. Anyway, he ended up, representing me, and he was trying to get me a deal with Polydor Records at that time. It was Polydor Records. And he said he needed to go in with a contract between he and I, a production contract. And so he gave me this thing. And he said, "Don't worry, this is bogus." It was a ridiculous contract. And I remember laughing, saying, "Man, I would never sign anything like this for real." Don't ever sign a contract if you do not agree to the terms. I don't care if someone tells you it is bogus, they will use it against you. And that's what happened to me. And I got locked into this contract. And then the man turned out to be shady. And then I had to take him to court. And when I took him to court, it was a 3-year time period from the time that I started my case and the time that I was heard. I was able to sing, but I could not record. So for 3 years, I couldn't make any records. I hired an attorney to represent me who was one of the top, he was the top entertainment attorney in France. And I hired him. And about 6 months before we were actually going before the court and the judge, he said, "You're going to win the case. I know this on fact. Go into the studio and record." Well, I had been doing this material, and so I had some money, and I knew this studio, I knew the owners, and I had a sound engineer. So I went into the studio and I made what is my album, Keeping Tradition. And after I won my case, and when I won that case, I was given the masters from the 2 albums that I had made with this gentleman who had become my manager and then produced these 2 albums. So I was awarded my masters because the judge just said I would never be able to collect any royalties. I had had a big hit, in Europe with Ray Charles. It had gone gold in France, and it had gone gold in a couple of other countries. I never saw a royalty. I never saw one dime. And even when I would do TV shows with Ray Charles agreed to do TV shows with me, but for each show he was paid a handsome sum, and I was paid absolutely nothing. Mhm. Because it was promotion for me. So, you have to go through those kinds of things in this business. So it's always good for you to try and have as much knowledge up front before you do anything in the industry that is going to require, the use of your image, your voice, your talent. You need to know what kind of monies are to be had. You need to enter into agreements and make your stipulations ahead of time. Just because they say they can't pay doesn't mean they won't. If you do TV, um, at any rate, I did this duet and it was a huge hit, and I didn't make any money. So when I won this case, um, my attorney told me to take the music that I had recorded and see if I could get a deal, and to take the decision from the court, so that whatever record label I would go to would know that the case had been resolved and that I had my own masters. And so, um, with all of that, I went to Polydor because I had a relationship with them already, and I played them the music. The gentleman that ran the jazz department, his name is Jean-Philippe Allard. He's an amazing man and really responsible for my recording career in France. Um, at any rate, after he listened to the music, he said, "Well, DeeDee, you've done this album." He said, "You produced it." And I had gotten a graphic artist, and we'd done the cover. I mean, I'd done everything. And he says, "You should get a producer's contract, a licensing agreement." And I said, "Oh, okay." He said, "So, and then we discussed my royalties, which were, at least tripled from what I was getting as a recording artist. So that's how I started producing my own albums. And in 2005, Jean-Philippe Allard and another gentleman then we were with Universal, and we were Verve. And they came to me and they said, "DeeDee, you should start your own label, a little boutique label, have the distribution through, you know, the label, but you own your masters and you lease them to the label. And if you got back catalog, you lease that to the label. And so, and you're very good producing. See if you want to produce some other people, but start your own label." So that's how I started my label. And that was in 2005, DDB Records. And, you know, um, basically, it's a kind of glorified licensing agreement. With my licensing agreements, with my most recent, which is with Sony Records, they told me that they wanted me to bring other artists to the label, and so I brought them Theo Croker. And so Theo was on DDB Records, distributed by Sony. Um, and it's interesting, I had to, because I have a lease agreement, when I do my albums, I have to put the logo of the distributing label, which is Sony, on my albums alongside my label logo. And people always ignore my label logo, and they always pick up, the label that's distributing. So they always have me with the distributing label. So in this case, it's Sony Records, but I'm with DDB Records. And Theo was with DDB Records. He may be entering an agreement of his own now, because our agreement is over, and he's doing great. Um, so he may be entering into his own agreement with Sony, and I hope it'll be as his own producer and with his own little label that I'll start. Um, the other artist that I had on DDB Records was the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra when I did the album DeeDee's Feathers with Urban Mayfield and the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra. So those are the two albums on my label, and then of course all of my back catalog is distributed through Sony. Um, I like mentoring. I mentored Theo from 2014, I guess, 2013, 2014 until, I don't know, I just kind of slid out of the picture in like maybe 2017, and he was kind of doing his own thing. And my Donager, my daughter, who is my manager, so that's my name, hence the name Donager, Tulani Bridgewater Kowalski, was doing Theo's management up until 2019. So that's been a beautiful experience. It's been wonderful to mentor a musician and to see him grow into the person that Theo has become. Um, I try and give my motherly advice to all of my young musicians, female musicians, and singers, and well, all musicians. But of course, I do have a penchant for my ladies because I'm a lady, and it's hard out here. It's a tougher row to hoe for us ladies in the jazz world. Well, I think in all worlds. Excuse me. Um, but mentoring, I think, is something that's really important. Um, all of the men and women who mentored me when I was coming up, they were all working with young musicians. As they got older, they would work with young musicians, and so that they could help jumpstart the careers of those musicians. So I now understand and see the beauty in that, and so that's what I've been doing for quite a few years now. And I've always liked to give my support to young musicians, to give them reference letters if I believe in what they do. I mean, I've even written letters for French musicians to get their green cards here in the States. I like to do that kind of stuff. And my mentoring has grown to where today, as I was blessed to become a Doris Duke artist, which is part of the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation. I became a Doris Duke artist in 2017, and this is my last year, 2021. And in talking with the woman who um, had introduced me to the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation, she asked me, about if there's anything that I thought could be done for the jazz community in terms of teaching or mentoring. And so I told her this idea that I had, and yeah, then I became a Doris Duke artist, and then went through some changes, but had to put together a proposal and create the idea for the program that I wanted to start, and I got the funding. And so now I have created with my daughter, Talani Bridgewater Kowalski, the Woodshed Network. The name of the program is the Woodshed Network. And we had our first year in 2019, and we did it at the space called Shapeshifter Lab in Brooklyn. And we had 8 um, mentees, we call the young ladies, and I have geared this program towards women in jazz, young women in jazz. And the object of this program, the Woodshed Network, is to help and give these young women a kind of heads up and a kind of push with the kinds of information that they would need to have a career, to hold a career, all the different aspects of a career. And so we're having our second. We couldn't do it in 2020. We had to switch to a virtual platform, and we're just getting that together. And so we're going to have our second installation of the Woodshed Network in March 1st through 12th, and that's exciting. Um, we have 12 women in the program this year, and a very exciting program. Talani puts together the program. I told her just today, I said, you've started a school. She's created a school. I had an idea, but she's created a school. That's pretty amazing. So we'll be sharing information about this year's program on social platforms. We didn't do it uh, for 2019 because we wanted to get our feet wet, and we wanted to make sure that things worked before we advertised it. So very, very excited. And the women that we had in the program, the alumna of the program, have been doing some fabulous things. So they'll be a part of the program this year, and they'll be speaking and sharing about how the Woodshed Network helped them in pushing their careers forward, and very exciting. Um, you know, we're in a virtual world now. This is crazy. We've been in this pandemic over a year, well, almost a year. And it's been insane. A lot of highs and lows, and it's been an interesting ride for me. I've been dealing with depression, a lot of depression. I am a depressive individual. I was on antidepressants for 15 years. I was weaned off in 2016. So I am, moving into my fifth year of being off of antidepressants. And I like this because I'm alive. I was numb for 15 years, and I was a yes person for 15 years. Um, so this has been a challenge. I've had times where I haven't been able to do much of anything, and I have not been creative, not really, since the shutdown. I don't feel inspired. I've done a lot of stuff around my house, taking care of my yard and stuff, fixing things, finishing things. I've been doing that kind of stuff. I have been fortunate to have done one live concert in November, 14th of November to be precise, at Pinecrest Gardens in Miami, Florida, and that was with a live band. Shelley Berg on piano and Chuck Bergeron on the bass, and Michael Pilot on drums. His name is really Piole, but that's okay. He says Pilot. Anyway, it was an amazing experience. Doing something live, even though it was live streamed, we did not have a public, but we were outdoors in this amazing setting of this garden, and it was extraordinary, extraordinary. But it was my first experience with flying. I've flown, on two different occasions now since the pandemic, and it's a little stressful for me. The experiences went well on the flights. I flew on JetBlue. I will only fly JetBlue or Delta because they are the best airlines in terms of respecting all of the COVID regulations. Um, and That's it, my loves. That's it. I hope that this has been cool for you guys. I think I'm only supposed to talk like a half an hour, so I don't know. Um, I'm a little over, I see, 34 minutes. But I hope that this talk was helpful for you guys, informative for you guys, and you know me a little better. And yeah, and I'm trying to get dressed. That's something that's really important for me, to get up every day and to get dressed. If I don't get up and get dressed, if I get dressed, and I mean dress, I mean put on some jewelry, put on a little bit of makeup if you're gonna do the zooms and and this and that. Otherwise, I put on some lipstick. Um, but I get dressed. I try and put together cute outfits. I'm wearing clothes that I haven't worn in years. I lost weight. I started biking. Um, so I lost weight, and I like where I'm at, and I feel good, and just stay safe, everybody. If you have the opportunity to get the vaccine, excuse me, get it. I got my first dose of the Pfizer vaccine on January 7th, and I get my second dose on the 28th. I think that having our vaccines is going to be like having a passport and being able to travel, and I need to travel. That's what I do, and so I need to get back out there and start traveling. I need to see my son in Paris and my granddaughter and my daughter-in-law, and my friends, and I need to have some interaction. Thank you. Be blessed, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sending you much love, and remember, wear your mask over your nose, under your chin. Please wash your hands. Wash your hands. Man, I'm using lotion in my house like never before. Wash your